Hello, greetings. My name is Zach and I live in this van that I have named Gertie with my dog Winter, and we live on the road full-time, traveling wherever the wind takes us. And I want to reveal to you the way I have figured out how to take a shower every single day in my van, and the way that you could potentially adapt your vehicle and your situation to allow you to take a shower every single day like I do. So let's get into it. When I moved into the van, I thought ahead, or at least so I thought. There's so many ideas that I came up with in the van, or for living in the van, that didn't really pan out. And one of the main ones was my shower situation. And I think my second, maybe third video, I talked about how I took showers then, and I took them outside, out behind the van. I have an electric water heater that heats up 7 gallons of water, which is more than enough to shower. And it allowed me to take showers out behind the van. I would open the doors, and I had a magnetic curtain that I would put up for privacy, which wasn't entirely effective because I have a 4x4 van which is 4 inches up, and then I put 33s on it, so it's even taller. So it would cover the belly button up, but the rest of me would be visible. So I'd like stack chairs and stuff around, and then if it was below like 80 degrees, and if there was even a little bit of a breeze, no matter how warm my water was, I was pretty much cold every time. And that's just not a way that I could live long term or indefinitely, which is kind of my plan for living in the van. As long as my life keeps me in the van, I'm going to stay in the van. And once that changes, then it's no longer an issue. But I needed to have a solution that I wasn't outside, exposed to the elements, exposing myself to people around, and cold. Being cold was a lot of times not worth it to be clean. So I would go days or a week or more without a shower because the weather was bad or various other reasons. Now I can take a shower in any weather inside the van with hot water and feel like a human again. And I found that that was really important for my mental health, my hygiene, for my confidence being around other people. I would literally stand further away from people because I was pretty sure that I didn't smell great. Deodorant and baby wipe baths just weren't enough. They just don't do the same as having water running on your body, soap, all that stuff, not in the wind, outside, cold. So I came up with a solution. I found a product online that I thought would work well for me, and I ordered that product, used it as they recommended, and found that it didn't work very good for me. It was honestly kind of gross in its own way. So over time I modified it and figured out a way that works really good. It's highly efficient. I only use 1.25 gallons to shower, and I have more than enough water to feel entirely human, like I've cleaned my whole body and like I have my own shower at home. It's not unlimited, obviously, but it works really good. And actually I usually take 1.5 gallons for a shower because I can use that extra 1/4 gallon, and it makes it just that much nicer. So let me show you the product that I purchased, and then I'm going to show you how I modified it and how I set it up and how that works for me. And really all you need is a stovetop, a pot, something to hold the water while it's being pumped into the shower system, and then the product that I bought. So let me get that out for you. It's called an everSHOWER, and it's made by a company out of Australia and sold here in the US by a company called Vanlife, I believe is how they pronounce it. And you can order it from their website, and it is a fantastic product. And you can use it outside. It's set up as an outside tent, but what I found is there's a little bit of a design flaw that makes it really ineffective outside for blocking out the wind. So if it's windy at all, your water gets cold almost immediately, and then you're in the same boat that you're in if you're just showering out in the open. So I adapted it to work inside my van, and I'm going to share that process with you right now. So this is where I have the everSHOWER stored, just underneath my bed here. Just flip that guy up. There it is right here, ready to go. Just pull it out and I have everything I need. Alright, so here's the everSHOWER. It actually has these little guys here that are supposed to hook down here, but I lost the tab. So I got my own bungee cord and adapted it so that it holds the lid on. So this guy is just the lid. I don't think there's anything, oh, I guess you could use it as a mat to step on outside. I think that's what it's supposed to be used as, but I don't use it at all, it's just the lid. This used to have kind of a skeleton that you can erect, and then you put the curtain over that. I tossed that a long time ago. I don't use it inside the van, and I never used the unit outside the van, so it was useless for me, so I threw it away. For some reason I still have the bag that everything goes in, even though I don't use that either. I have narrowed it down to the modified curtain that I have. I put these stainless steel shackles that are always undoing themselves with these kind of carabiner type clips. I'll show it on that. So these carabiner type clips are also stainless. So everything's stainless so it doesn't rust. And I modified the bottom. This used to be Velcro to hook onto the loops in the base here. And I actually just took the Velcro and glued it together, made a loop for these guys, and it's been holding up pretty good for, I don't know, it's been like that for quite a few months now. This is the curtain. It basically acts as the wall. I also put these modified, I don't know what you call these, but they clip on to these eye hooks that I put in my roof, and then I can pull them tighter or loosen them to make them match up to the height that I need it at. These guys, there are 8 of them, and they clip on the inside of the base, which is where all the water is collected. So as I shower, I'll show you that in a second. As I shower, the water falls down into the base and then is stored down there. So my feet are unfortunately in the dirty water, but that's a pretty small side effect to a pretty good system. And I just clean them off. I have a towel on the floor and I just use that to clean off my feet and get all the soap scum off, and it works pretty good. There's 3 things that I really needed from the kit, not the tent or skeleton erector set thing. I don't need that, but I needed the shower curtain, I needed this base, and I needed the pump system. The everSHOWER Monsoon version, which is the upgraded version, has this pump which I can't remember how many liters it does per minute. I think it's like 24 liters per minute. It's quite a few. It has a lot, really good pressure, which is why I bought the upgraded version. The pump is pretty good quality. Unfortunately, I've had 2 things go wrong with it. This bottom falls off, and then it loses all pressure and is unable to work. And once, but I fixed it, the impeller in there detached from the central shaft. When it detached from the shaft, obviously it doesn't spin the propeller like it should be, or the impeller as it should. So I used super glue to replace both things, or to fix both things. I put a little bit on the impeller, stuck it on there, and it hasn't been an issue since. Same thing with this. I just stuck a little bit of glue just on one side so that it's easy to pull off. Because it's super glue, I just probably have to break the seal, so hit it on something hard gently and it should release. Actually, it does release because I've done it several times. But it's worked great ever since with minor issues. The other issue I've had, as you can see, my switch is kind of taped up and modified. I have a new one on order, sent to my friend's house in another part of Idaho. It's going to be waterproof, so that will be another improvement. This is just a cheap little switch that comes with it, and it's not that impressive. It fell apart pretty quick, and I also got water in there, so it corroded really bad. So as far as the pump, this part of the pump is the way it started, as well as this hose. It's the original hose, but from here on up I actually put a whole new shower head on there. This is a reduced flow shower head, and that really helps me to save the water. So that was the other key to getting it down. I used to use about 2 gallons with the one that came with it, but thankfully it actually broke right at the base here, and when it broke right at the base, I went and I got this Delta version. This thing does 6.6 liters per minute, which is significantly less than the pump will pump. So that saves me water, makes it much more efficient. This was actually the missing piece. I didn't know it until it broke, and I replaced it, but it greatly, my shower was way too long. I was just sitting there like, is this thing over? So this is what made it so that I can do it with only 1.25 gallons and have a good quality shower where I wash my beard. I don't have hair, so that actually saves water too. I would say you probably at least need another 1/4 to 1/2 if you have more hair than me. I'll show you the inside of this. So this is really what makes it so that I don't have to modify the van, and you can do it in any high-topped vehicle, is this base. This base is fantastic. It has these nice solid D-hooks or D-loops, whatever you want to call them. That's where I connect the beaners to, and then that keeps the shower curtain on the inside, so the water runs into the inside of this and not out into the van. And then I just put this over the sink, pull out this little plug here, and let it drain into my gray water tank. It's a little tricky to pick it up, but I've had no serious incidents. It literally comes from right here over to right here where my sink is. So it's like 4 feet. It's one motion. I just crouch down, lift it up and over, put it over there, pull the drain plug, let it drain down into my gray water tank, and that's it. My water is drained. Once it's drained, I have 2 towels that I rotate. Actually, where is it? I have 2 of these. So one goes in to soak up any water that drains out of my shower head pump assembly while it's in here, because I don't want water running around and getting my curtain wet. That would make it smell bad. And so putting a dry towel in there, I don't really know what the term would be, but there's so much ability for this water to soak up moisture that by the time it soaks up the moisture that drips out of that, there's really not enough to create mold. And since I shower every day, the one that goes in there is the one that I then use to dry all of the water out of this. Once I rinse it out into my sink, I rinse it out, dry it out with this, and I dry out the container that I use to store the water that's being pumped out. I promise anything that doesn't make sense, it'll make sense when I set it up for you. And I hang this up to dry with the towel that I use to dry myself, which is actually a camp towel. I actually have it on my list of things. This thing, they don't smell very good after a long time, and I've been using this for quite a while as my main towel. I have it on my list of things to get at the store next time I see a store, is to get a big fluffy towel. I want a big fluffy towel. So this is the towel that I'm going to actually put on the floor, since it is the wet towel, as I call it. I'm going to fold it up and it turns into my floor mat, so that when I step out I don't get my carpet wet. I put this guy down. That allows me to dry my feet in the proper way when I get out. So now that that's on the floor, it's not in my way. The pump for this system is actually a submersible pump. So what I need to store the water is not a tank. I just need either a bucket. I actually use my garbage can. I pull out the garbage bag and then I just use the can. If you think it's gross, you're wrong. It isn't. I don't put anything gross in my garbage so it doesn't leak all over the place. I keep this thing very clean and I regularly sanitize it. And since I'm always running water through it, it's almost always very clean. Occasionally some coffee grounds will escape into the bottom of this, but other than that it stays really clean. I used a gallon jug that I bought once. I bought a gallon jug, I put it in there. That allowed me to label where the gallon is, and then I figured out 1.25. That's my standard Lux, Super Lux showers, where I get to use varying amounts of water. And then I mark the 2-gallon point as well. That way I don't use up any extra space with another bucket. Those collapsible buckets don't last very long. And so this has been a really great solution. It holds enough water, and then I just put it back in my cabinet where the garbage goes, put the bag back in, and I use it as a garbage for the day, and then a shower when I need it. Now that I've long-windedly introduced all the players, I'm going to show you how I set it up in the van. Then I'm going to film a shower scene, which I thought I'd never film. But if you like that sort of thing, we can do that more often. So now we're going to move on, and I'm going to show you how I set it up, how I shower, how I take it down, and how I dry everything so that I can put it away the next morning and I don't have any mold growing on any of my stuff, and I can still shower every day. So I completely forgot to mention how I heat up the water, and it's very, very simple. I fill up my garbage full of water, and then I just use my regular old pot. It takes heating up the pot about twice before the water is hot enough, and I like hot water. So I heat it up probably about twice, and then the water is more than hot. Oftentimes when I do that, it's too hot, and I have to wait a few minutes before it cools down so that I don't scald my body all over. It takes me about as long to set everything up. I actually vacuum every time I shower just because it's super convenient. The vacuum is actually blocked from being pulled out by my everSHOWER suitcase. So when I pull it out, it's a great time to hit the vacuum. So I'm going to vacuum really quick. I'm not going to cover that because you don't really care. And then I will show you how I set everything up. Alrighty, so I just vacuumed the van so everything's nice and vacuumed, so when I get out of the shower I don't have dirt sticking to my feet. It's really nice. And then in the morning when I get up, I have a clean van. In such a small space, it's really nice to have everything cleaned up every night. It helps me with my mental health, like showering. It's like a routine that I get in as I clean everything, I take my shower, and then everything starts fresh and clean in the morning. It's definitely the way to go for me. So the first step when I start with the shower is I need to fill up my garbage can. Or you may use a bucket if you don't like the idea of using a garbage can. Since I have these lines on here, I can actually see where it's filled up to. I just put it in the sink, fill it up until it's full. Once it's full, I'll start talking again so that you don't have to listen to me over this thing. Alright, so that's filled up to the Super Lux level. That is a very comfortable shower for me. I don't actually worry about running out. I'm able to rinse off the inside of the curtain if there's any soap scum in there, and that also prevents it from getting gross. I haven't done any like serious washing or scrubbing of it yet, and it doesn't feel slimy and it doesn't smell. So I have my pot here. I just dunk it in there, fill it up as far as it'll go, which is, well, as far as is safe for water that I'm going to boil. While that's heating up, I will set up my shower stall, my curtain and such. Or by the time I'm done setting that up, I'll probably have about 5 minutes before the water is fully heated up, and then it's time to shower. It's a fairly efficient process, but I actually take about an hour to do it. With all the cleaning, the setup, the takedown, it takes about an hour, but I have done it in about 30 minutes, so it doesn't have to take forever. I just move pretty slow because I like to enjoy the process. This is part of my settling down for the evening routine, which for me is very vital to actually falling asleep. I've really set myself up with a lot of routines to make van life, which is inherently unpredictable. Predictable at least in the sense that I take a shower every day, shave my head every day, brush my teeth twice a day, I take my vitamins every day, I do a Spanish lesson every day. There's just these routines that I walk the dog for at least an hour every day. Those things are what grounds me in life so that my very unpredictable lifestyle seems somewhat normal. So now that that's heating up, I'm going to start setting up the stall. So over in my entry area, so this is my door. I have my window cover on so that anybody outside isn't sitting there watching me take a shower. With the curtain, they wouldn't be able to see much, but I like to keep it pretty private. So I just set this guy down right on the floor there. It seems kind of small, but the curtain actually angles outward, so my upper body has plenty of room where my arms are, and that works really good. I really like this thing. I think this thing is the key because in my van I don't have any adaptations for a shower. There's no, if you came in here and looked around, it wouldn't look like I could take showers in here, and it's kind of the way I like it. I don't want to waste too much space with plumbing and a drain system and all that because it takes up a lot of space. Right now it's actually sitting in the place that I walk around and move around through the most. Really the only downside to this is when everything's set up, I can't really exit my slider door and I can't really access my fridge, and it's very difficult to get up into the cab area. But since I'm here focusing on my evening routine and taking a shower, it's actually not that bad of a deal. One of the things that I always do, unless it's really warm out, is I turn on my heater to kind of preheat the van so that when I'm taking the shower, I'm not really cold at any point, because why should I be if I don't have to be? The other trick that I use is to prevent the van from fogging up, because if it's cooler outside, all of my windows will fog if I don't do this. And what I do is I put my max air fan to blow in air on like setting 1 or 2, maybe 3 if it's kind of a warmish day, and that stops anything from fogging because it's pushing clean air in. I open up 2 of my vent windows, one in the rear by the bed, and then this one, there's a window right behind me here that I slide all the way open. For lighting purposes, I actually have it covered up, but it's night outside. So this guy's actually open with the screen in the way so that all the mosquitoes outside don't come inside, which showering where there's mosquitoes is incredibly uncomfortable. I've done that. I don't like doing it. That's why it's nice to be inside. So since the fan is blowing air in, it's going out of this. It grabs the moisture, goes straight out. So I don't have to have a unique exhaust fan for it, and I don't have to set up my shower over here underneath of my fan. And so that's huge. I don't know how I discovered it. I just thought I'd try it one day. I didn't have any condensation on the inside of my windows when I pulled back the covers, and I was absolutely astonished. I've been doing that technique for over a year now, and it has worked 100% of the time. As long as I turn on that fan blowing in, I don't have foggy windows. It's absolutely fantastic. I have the base put in. The water is actually just starting to bubble on the bottom. That's just pot 1, so I'm not too concerned. So one of the complaints I had about the original everSHOWER system is they gave you like this little Velcro thing that was supposed to hold on to the shower head and like dangle it above you. I honestly never figured out how that worked. It was really cheap Velcro, and it started to fray even when I wasn't actually using it. So when I bought this one, it came with this guy. And what this guy is the hose hook for the shower head hooks onto there, and then this end is where the water goes in, and then this mount is kind of a magnetic device that holds the shower head. And when I bought it, I kind of looked at it at the store and I said there's probably a way I can modify that to make it work, and I modified it in a really good way, and it works fantastically. I honestly couldn't have designed a better system if I thought about it myself. It just happened to work out. So on my ceiling, it's permanently mounted, so anybody that's particularly tall would have to watch out for this. But I have this knob up here, and that knob, that hole there is supposed to have water come through it, but the way I modified it, I am able to put this ring over the top of it. So I put that ring over it, and then this kind of washer grommet thing, I broke it so that it has a little crack in it. That allows me to just slide it up over the knob and then this thing hangs on there and won't pull down at all. It's completely held up there. So then I just take the mount here and one-handedly screw it on somehow. There we go. So now, just like in your shower at home, this thing can rotate any direction. And I can clip that on there. And now I have a hanging shower head and I don't have to depend on holding it up myself. And this thing is more than high enough for me to stand under. I am 5'9" and I still have that much clearance in my Sprinter here, so it's fantastic. Oh look, my first pot of water is boiling. So I just dump that in there. That heats up all of the water in there, you know, a relative amount. And then I just take another scoop and the water is already heated up a little bit. So it's kind of lukewarm now. And so that's gonna heat up and boil a lot faster than the original pot did, because that was already cold water. And yes, it takes longer if it's colder out because my water tank is colder, but it's barely noticeable. It's like 10 more minutes maybe. So now I need to set up my curtain. I'm gonna try to set the camera somewhere. So I just set that in the bucket like this. This guy came with a cigarette lighter. I don't know what the expert term is for this, but that's the 12-volt connection that you find in any car. I happen to have them all over the van. I have one right here behind my sink, so all I have to do is plug that in there. Hopefully my pump doesn't start. Woo! On switch was on, so I just plugged that bad boy in. So once I have the pump plugged into the cigarette lighter 12-volt plug-in, I have this little binder clip here. Use the binder clip that holds my switch just on the other side of the curtain, which means I can kind of push through the curtain and flip it on and off when I need it. As I told you before, the curtain attaches at the top and at the bottom. I usually attach it at the top first and then down at the bottom after that. So I actually clip these on in a specific way so that it's really easy for me to do. It only takes a few seconds. I have an eyelet up here. And then the next one I know goes like this. Eyelet in this corner. Eyelet over there. Eyelet over here. And now everything is connected up. I usually let it down a little bit so that it's easier to connect to the bottom. And then I'll straighten it up in a second. Alright, so now I'm going to clip all those carabiners onto the bottom. So now I'm adjusting everything so everything's nice and tight. I have this little cord here, little rope here that allows me to get the hose up off of the countertop, and it makes it so that I can access it more freely. There's my second pot of water boiling. So it takes a while to set up. It seems like a lot. If you're used to having unlimited water and used to having a shower stall or a dedicated bathroom, then it really sounds like you're roughing it with this. But trust me when I say, if you haven't gone a week, 2 weeks without a shower, you don't understand how luxurious something like this is to have. Even if it's just a quick shower, it's absolutely fantastic. So since my water is the right temperature, after heating it up and boiling it up twice, I managed to set everything up, film it, talk to you, and do it all, and I still have warm water. So I'm going to probably just leave the camera right there, take my shower, and then I'm going to show you the put it back down process. So now it is time for my first and probably only shower scene. Notice how nice and tall this is. I'm again 5'9", and this covers, it really covers all that it needs to cover. I take this as a sea shower, so it's not that the water is flowing the entire time. I get wet, lathered up, and then I rinse off. that's it. I'm all rinsed off. Got all the soap off of me, got all the soap off of the shower curtain. I just dry off mostly in here so I don't drip all over the van. I am freshly cleaned, freshly washed. Beard's been brushed. Now it's time for me to take everything down and put it away in such a way that the van is still functional. Everything can dry, have time to dry, and then I can put it all away fully and be ready to go the next day. The first step is I got to get this shower head taken down and put away. One of the key parts with this is I got to get all the water out, so I just kind of do like you do a hose, and I get it up high and pick it up until it drains out. So I wrap the hose up just like this. Along with wrapping up the hose a very specific way, I wrap up my cord in a very specific way. So I have this gear tie, it's just a rubberized twist tie. I wrap it around the cord and the hose. That way everything stays nice and organized. This is where I get my second towel, my second cleaning / water holder towel, and I put this guy in that. So now it's wrapped up and ready to go back into the base when I get the base cleaned out. The next step is to pull this mount off. That just drops out there. Little washer comes out. Boom. Got to make sure not to lose that because I honestly don't know where I'll find another one. I probably have to search the parts for this thing. And that goes with the hose. And then my curtain, this is another stroke of brilliance for me, is because I have it over here, I'm able to utilize this step up into the van, which is dropped a little bit lower and just happens to be able to hold water without creating any rust or damage because it's plastic, and it also kind of drains out of the van. It's kind of the wet room of the van is that little area down there. Like if I come in with like snowy boots, then that's where the boots will sit until they dry off. So I have a very specific way of doing it, is I clip these two sides here onto the cord first. And then I come down and I unhook everything from the bottom. Since everything's still draining, it's important to keep it in the base as long as I can. And then once I take this one off, that was the messiest I've ever done that. I throw it all over here, put that on, and that way, as it continues to drain, it drains into that entry area, and that way I don't get any of my carpet wet. So now I got this is the wet towel that was in the base when I opened it up, and I just used it as my floor mat. Now I'm going to use it to dry out the base once I get it rinsed out. So now I pull this out. There's actually a little bit of water that survives. I use that to rinse it out. I put it in this corner of my van so I don't knock it over. I have this perfect little corner that I can set it in. That way I don't kick it over. This is the riskiest maneuver here. I go down, whoa, move it over here. So now that I have the soapy water over here, I just pull the drain out and it drains straight into my sink and down the drain. Now I take this extra water as to not waste it. I do a quick spray with this, kind of get the edges. And now I use this towel to dry it out. I used to use paper towels, but it was costing me a fortune in paper towels to dry this out. So now I just have these reusable, they're basically cheap bath towels. I think they're like $2 a piece, which is less than a roll of paper towels. And since I'm using such a big towel for such a small task, it's very effective. I always put the drain plug back in at this point because I forgot it and then tried to take a shower and that made a huge mess. Now that's all dry. That goes in there. This towel now dries out my garbage can. This is why my garbage can stays so clean. Dry off the countertop, take the garbage bag, Put it back in the garbage can. Tuck the garbage can away so it can resume its normal tasks. Alright, so that concludes most of the cleanup. So now I just need to make sure that everything dries. I have this towel, I have my curtain, and I have the towel that I use to dry myself. Since I have this curtain rod for my cab living space divider curtain, I just take the curtain all the way off of that, or slide it all the way to the side. Fold this guy accordingly. Throw that guy up, and then I have my curtain over here drying. Oh, look how cute Winter is. She's such a sweet girl. And since my curtain is really wet, I actually have a really fancy feature here. This is the nozzle for my heater, which is putting out very hot air, too hot to touch. I actually aim that over towards the curtain, which expedites the drying process. Probably by the time I go to bed in about an hour or so, that'll actually be completely dry. So I leave all this stuff hanging all night. In the morning, one of the first things I do when I'm making before I make breakfast most of the time, is I'll roll this up, put it back in the base, and put the base away, and then I'm done with the shower stuff for the day. It's a really great process. It does take some time, it does take some setup, but at least I'm clean every day, and I'm still living the free, adventurous life that I wanted to live when I moved into the van, except every day I wake up clean, and every night I go to bed clean. It's a fantastic improvement over going days or weeks without having showers, which I absolutely hated. I was always worried about my next shower. Now I know that my next shower is just going to come in the van in the evening. It is a huge upgrade, and I hope this video helps you out to upgrade your life like it upgraded mine. I think I covered every little detail about showering in my van and how I kind of bought and then created an even better way of taking showers. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, if you enjoyed it, please give me the thumbs up. If you want to see the next videos I have coming out, please subscribe and hit the bell if you need to be notified. The next video I plan on coming out with is 10 plus things that I recommend. I haven't come up with an exact number yet, and the video after that is probably going to be 10 plus tips that I have to make your time living in a vehicle much easier. I've been doing this for 3 years now. None of these items are things that I've been told to recommend. These aren't products for you. These are actually things that I have either come up with or used on a regular basis that I know that works for me and that I've used for a long time and that I've vetted. So there's none of that like, oh, I just got this great thing and I think you should get it too, it's great. And then a video a couple years down the road, yeah, I got that and I never really used it and it wasn't that good. No, these are things that I have used consistently and I know are going to help you out, or at least get your mind thinking along those lines to help you in your own journey. So I appreciate you watching. I hope you're subscribed, and I'll see you on the next one. Good night.